Fluent Talk Podcast
from SayAndLearn.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we dig into stacks of research, expert insights, all that dense material, and we pull out the core knowledge, the stuff that can actually make a difference for you.
And today, we're tackling a big one, the science of transformation. We're really drilling down into how fundamental change actually happens.
Right.
The idea here is that getting massive results isn't just for, the lucky ones. It's actually predictable. It's what happens when you make small, consistent choices.
Yeah, that's the observation that really kicks us off, isn't it?
Yeah.
You see people who just completely pivot, they master something new, change their health, hit these huge goals.
Yeah.
And then you see others who seem, stuck. Same patterns year after year. So is it luck? Is it talent? Or there's something else, a repeatable method?
Well, the sources we looked at, they're pretty unanimous. It's the latter.
Okay.
They argue there's a blueprint, and honestly, it's simpler than you'd think. Big change doesn't happen in some, movie montage moment.
Right, no overnight success.
Exactly. It's the pileup, the accumulation of tiny adjustments day after day. They compound. It's a lot like learning a complex skill, actually.
Oh, I totally get that. I remember trying to learn a new language. At first, it's just overwhelming, right? All the words, the grammar. You think, no way, I can't do this. But then you learn one weird verb.
Yeah.
You do 10 minutes of practice, have one awkward conversation, and then slowly you realize, hey, I'm actually communicating.
Yeah.
It wasn't some big breakthrough. It was just showing up. Consistency.
That's the perfect analogy. That slow, gradual, sometimes messy progress, that's the mechanic we're dissecting today.
Okay.
Our mission really is to pull out the practical steps, the mindset shifts you need, the environment tweaks, everything required to spark real, significant change in your life.
So giving you the blueprint, turning those small actions into hopefully exponential results.
That's the goal.
All right, let's start where most people get stuck, the beginning, or maybe the non-beginning. Change sounds great, right?
Yeah.
A fresh start, exciting. But why doesn't it happen for most people? What keeps us stuck? Let's unpack that.
Yeah, okay. Recognizing these barriers, that's step one, more than half the battle, really. If you don't know what's stopping you, you can't break through it.
Makes sense.
And our sources point to several really common psychological traps, things that just kill momentum before it even starts.
Now, the first big one we found was pretty classic.
Yeah.
Just the fear of failure.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. It's that voice, right? What if I try this new habit, this language, whatever, and I fail? What if people see me fail?
It's not just disappointment, is it? It's ego. It's thinking about the effort you put in for nothing.
Exactly. And people get really good at avoiding that feeling. Procrastination, rationalizing why now isn't the right time, planning endlessly.
Micro-planning, yeah.
Right. All designed to avoid the possibility of failing.
So avoidance feels safer.
It feels safer in the moment. Yeah. But here's the thing, the counter insight that's crucial. Think of anyone successful, anyone.
Okay.
Their failure resume, it's way longer than their success resume, guaranteed. They didn't avoid failure, they just learned from it and kept going. That's the difference.
They didn't quit.
They didn't quit. And maybe more importantly, think about the cost of not trying. Staying stuck, the dreams you put off, that quiet regret, that often hurts way more long-term than, the temporary sting of failing at something.
That's a good point. And maybe we need to separate big failures, losing a job, from the small stuff, like messing up when you practice something for 10 minutes.
Absolutely.
Most personal change starts small, where failures just
feedback, right?
Yeah, that distinction is critical. And that fear of even small failures, it often leads right into the second trap. Needing the perfect plan. This idea that you can't start until you have everything mapped out flawlessly. The perfect study schedule, the ultimate diet plan.
Analysis paralysis. You get so caught up in planning you never actually do anything. Precisely. Searching for that perfect plan, it's just a fancy way to procrastinate. Because the moment you actually start, the plan changes anyway, the real world hits.
Yeah.
Progress demands doing, then adjusting. It means taking a messy first step, not waiting until you feel perfectly prepared, because you never will.
So fear of failure, needing the perfect plan. And while we're delaying, that third barrier kicks in hard, doesn't it? The negative self-talk.
Oh, absolutely. This is the internal chatter that just slams the brakes on. Specific things we tell ourselves. I'll never be good at this. I'm too old for this. Or, sticking with your language example, I'm just not a language person.
Right. And once you label yourself not a language person,
you've basically given yourself permission to stop trying, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
These thoughts aren't just demotivating, they literally block the brain's ability to learn and grow. They're like cognitive roadblocks.
Okay, and then there's maybe the sneakiest trap of all, the one we hear constantly, waiting for motivation. I'll start working out when I feel inspired. I'll practice my English next week when I've got more energy.
This one drives me crazy because it's based on a total misunderstanding of how we work. It needs flipping on its head.
How so?
The big secret, and this is backed up by loads of behavioral science in our sources, is that motivation doesn't come before action.
Okay.
Motivation is the result of action. You can't wait to feel ready. That perfect moment of inspiration, it's a myth. It doesn't just arrive.
So taking even a tiny step creates a little win.
Exactly.
And that feeling of accomplishment, that's what actually fuels the next step, like a chemical reward.
Absolutely. It's a feedback loop. Action, happy, small win. Hello, dopamine. Momentum, that's your motivation. Bigger action. You have to force the start sometimes, except it feels weird or hard. Trust that just doing something will generate the energy to do more.
Got it.
So, understanding these 4 things, fear, perfectionism, negative self-talk, and waiting for motivation, that's the essential groundwork. Knowing the enemy before you build your strategy.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. A powerful foundation. So let's transition. We know what holds us back. How do we actually build that engine for change? If it's not about huge leaps, how do these small daily actions create real, lasting transformation?
Right, now we get into the, let's call it, quantitative side of self-improvement. We have to talk about compounding, often called the 1% rule.
The 1% rule. I like the sound of that. It feels manageable.
It is manageable, but the effect isn't small. This isn't just a nice quote, it's math. It's how compounding works applied to your life.
Okay, break down the math for us. How powerful is 1%?
It's kind of staggering, actually. If you get just 1% better at something every single day for a year, you're not 365% better.
Right, that would be linear.
Exactly, because each improvement builds on the last one, it compounds. By the end of the year, you're actually about 37 times better.
37 times.
37 times, or if you want the exact number, it's like 3,778% better. It's exponential. Think of it like compound interest in a savings account, but for your skills or habits.
Wow, that's huge. Just from a tiny 1% daily effort. And the flip side must be true too, right? Getting 1% worse.
Oh, yeah. And it's maybe even more motivating or terrifying, depending on how you look at it.
Okay.
If you get 1% worse each day, maybe you skip your practice, eat junk food, whatever, after a year,
Yeah.
you're not just 365% worse off. You've basically wiped out your progress. Your skill or health drops almost to zero, like 0.03 times where you started.
Whoa. So standing still isn't really standing still. It's
Yeah.
decaying.
It's subtle, gradual decay.
Yeah.
Consistency, whether it's positive or negative, dictates where you end up long term. Small actions determine your destiny, basically.
It's like steering a plane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Change the heading by just 1 degree at takeoff, and you land hundreds of miles away from where you intended. That tiny shift makes a massive difference over distance.
That's a perfect analogy. And this compounding thing, it's not just about what you can do. It actually changes who you are, your identity. Well, when you consistently do these small things, even if they feel insignificant at the time, they start to reshape your self-perception.
You're talking about identity-based habits, like James Clear talks about.
Exactly. You move beyond just setting goals like, I want to read more, to defining yourself differently.
Okay.
If you read, say, 10 pages every single night, no matter what, eventually you stop thinking of yourself as someone trying to read more. You just are a reader.
Right. It becomes part of who you are.
That identity shift is the real prize of compounding habits. The goal isn't just the outcome. It's becoming the kind of person who naturally achieves that outcome.
Okay, let's make this super practical, because 1% better can feel a bit abstract. What are some concrete, like ridiculously easy examples?
Yeah, the key is making the entry point almost laughably small so you can't make excuses.
Okay.
Examples from the sources included things like reading just 10 minutes a day, not a chapter, not an hour, 10 minutes.
Anyone can find 10 minutes.
Right. Or practicing one specific skill, say English pronunciation, for only 5 minutes, maybe right after you brush your teeth.
That's habit stacking, right? Linking a new habit to one you already do.
Exactly. After I current habit, I will new tiny habit. Or another one. Write one sentence in a journal each day. Just one.
5 minutes. One sentence. It removes all the excuses. The goal isn't a big win. It's just not breaking the chain, building the identity.
Precisely. And that connects to a really cool real-life story we found
Oh, yeah.
about a guy who became fluent in a second language, not with expensive classes or crazy, intense study sessions.
Oh, yeah.
He just committed to listening to one specific 15-minute podcast in that language every morning on his commute, every single day. And he'd look up and try to use maybe 3 new phrases from it later that day.
That's it. 15 minutes and 3 phrases.
That was the core. He didn't start with some grand plan, just that small, consistent step, and over about 3 years. The compounding effect got him to functional fluency.
Wow. That really proves the point. Consistency beats intensity, hands down. So the big takeaway here for you listening, don't try to overhaul your life this week. Pick one thing, one tiny habit, something so easy you feel silly not doing it, and just commit to that today and tomorrow.
Don't obsess about the huge goal way down the line. Just focus on winning today's 1% improvement. That's the only thing you actually need to control.
Okay, so we've got the action part down. Small, consistent steps. But action alone isn't enough if your head's not in the right place, right? Your internal world can sabotage the best intentions. And this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. Mindset seems almost more fundamental than the action itself.
It really is. It's the fuel for that compounding engine we just talked about. And the big thing here is understanding the difference between 2 core mindsets, growth versus fixed.
Okay, let's define those clearly.
Sure. A fixed mindset operates from the belief that your basic qualities, your intelligence, your talents, your personality are just that, fixed, set in stone.
So you're either good at something or you're not.
Pretty much. The internal talk is like, I'm bad at math, or I'll never be a good speaker because I'm shy. Effort is seen as pointless, or even worse, a sign that you lack natural talent.
Okay. And the growth mindset.
That's based on the idea that your abilities can be developed through dedication, hard work, good strategies, input from others.
Neuroplasticity, right. The brain can change.
Exactly. The growth mindset believes, I can get better if I work at it. Failure isn't seen as a permanent label. It's just information. Feedback for the next try. This belief system, it's basically the gatekeeper. It determines if change is even possible for you.
And this isn't just wishful thinking, is it? This difference in mindset actually affects how our brains physically work through something called the reticular activating system, the RAS.
The RAS, yes. It's such a fascinating bit of our wiring.
Explain it. What is the RAS?
Okay, so the reticular activating system, it's basically a network of nerves deep in your brainstem. Think of it as your brain's bouncer or filter. Its main job, evolutionarily, was survival. Your senses are constantly flooded with information sights, sounds, smells, way more than your conscious mind can possibly handle.
Right, sensory overload.
Exactly. The RAS filters almost all of it out and only alerts your conscious brain to what it thinks is important or relevant. Usually things related to survival or things you've specifically tagged as important.
So it decides what gets our attention.
It's the gatekeeper of your conscious awareness. The classic example everyone experiences is the car thing, right?
The car thing.
Yeah. You decide you want, say, a specific type of blue SUV. You start researching it, maybe test drive one, and then suddenly...
You see that exact blue SUV everywhere.
Everyone. It feels like they multiplied overnight, but they didn't. Your RAS has just been programmed by your focus, your intention, your research to flag that specific pattern as important. So now it jumps out at you from the background noise.
Wow. Okay, so the implication for personal change, that's massive. Because if the RAS filters reality based on what we focus on, then our internal narrative, our self-talk, that's literally programming the filter.
That's exactly it. That's the consequence of focus. If your dominant thought, your deep belief is, I'm terrible with money, or I always fail at diets, your RAS takes that as an instruction. It actively searches for evidence to confirm that belief. It'll highlight every time you overspend, every time you slip up on the diet, and it'll conveniently ignore or downplay any small successes you have.
It's confirmation bias built into our biology.
Pretty much. But the reverse is also true, and this is the exciting part.
Okay.
If you deliberately, consciously change your internal programming, if you start telling yourself, I am learning to manage my money effectively, or I am making healthier choices 1% more each day, your RAS flips the script. It starts scanning your reality for evidence of that. It notices the small savings, the healthy meal choice, the resources that support your goals.
It shifts from spotting obstacles to spotting opportunities and progress.
Exactly. It reinforces the growth mindset, literally building new neural pathways that support the positive behavior. You're basically doing cognitive engineering on yourself.
Cognitive engineering. I like that. So how do we actually do that? What are the practical tools our sources recommend for training the RAS to work for us?
They consistently highlight three main practices. First up, affirmations.
Okay, positive self-talk. But does just repeating phrases actually work?
It's more than just repeating hollow phrases. It's about consistently feeding your brain specific, positive, present tense statements that align with who you want to become.
Present tense. Why is that important?
Because you're instructing your brain about your current reality or the reality you're actively creating. So instead of, I wish I spoke English fluently, which reinforces lack, you use something process-focused, like, I am improving my English communication skills every day, or I speak more confidently each time I practice.
Okay, so that consistent repetition helps carve out those new brain pathways.
Precisely. The second tool is visualization.
Seeing yourself succeed.
Yes, but really seeing it, engaging all your senses. Imagine yourself confidently giving that presentation, easily finishing that workout, smoothly handling that difficult conversation. Feel the feelings associated with it.
Like mental rehearsal.
Exactly. Top athletes do this constantly. When you visualize vividly, your brain doesn't fully distinguish between the imagined event and a real one. It builds familiarity, reduces anxiety, and makes the desired outcome feel more achievable, more inevitable. It kind of tricks your brain into believing it's already happening.
Okay, bridges the gap between possible and probable. Affirmations, visualization. What's the third one?
And the third, which might be the simplest but most powerful, is gratitude practice.
Just being thankful. How does that train the RAS?
By deliberately shifting your focus. When you intentionally look for and acknowledge things you're grateful for, even tiny things, like your coffee being hot or managing those 5 minutes of practice, you are actively training your RAS to scan for the positive, to see opportunities, resources, successes, abundance. Instead of automatically defaulting to noticing problems, scarcity, and what's going wrong, it changes your brain's baseline filter setting.
Wow. So mindset isn't just attitude. It's a daily practice of actively directing your brain's focus to support the 1% improvement.
Exactly. It creates this upward spiral. Positive focus leads to noticing progress, which fuels motivation, which leads to more action and more positive focus.
Okay, this is all making sense. We need the right mindset. We need small actions. But there's still that practical hurdle. Actually starting, that tendency to wait for the perfect moment. This feels related to the perfection trap we talked about earlier.
It absolutely is. We have to tackle this idea of readiness head on.
Okay.
The simple, maybe uncomfortable truth is you're never going to feel 100% ready, ever. That moment you're waiting for, it's not coming.
But what about really big things, like starting a business? Or something super technical? Isn't there value in waiting until you're, say, 70% or 80% prepared to avoid a huge crash and burn?
That's a fair question, and it feels logical, right? But the sources we looked at really push back against significant delay, even for big things. Because of the momentum principle we touched on earlier, progress comes before confidence, not the other way around.
Okay.
If you wait until you feel confident and ready, you'll likely wait forever. The only way to build that feeling of competence and confidence is by actually doing the thing, making mistakes, learning, and iterating.
So start small enough that failure isn't catastrophic, but start nonetheless.
Exactly. Start small, but start now. Get some runs on the board, get some feedback, build that momentum.
We see this so clearly with learning a language, don't we? People wait and wait to speak. They're terrified of making mistakes, sounding stupid. They think, I need to know all the grammar rules before I talk to someone.
Right. And what happens? The longer they wait, the bigger the hurdle feels. Psychological inertia sets in. But the moment they just jump in, maybe their grammar is terrible, maybe they forget words, what do they usually find?
That people are generally understanding. That mistakes aren't the end of the world.
Exactly. Mistakes aren't fatal. They're just part of the process. They build confidence not by achieving perfection beforehand, but by surviving the act of imperfect communication.
Which brings us back to that phrase, done is better than perfect.
Absolutely critical, especially early on. Waiting for perfect is just. It's a really clever form of self-sabotage. Imperfect action, taking a step, even if it's messy or flawed, is always, always better than sitting around planning for perfect inaction. If you need everything to be just right, the timing, the tools, the plan, you'll just never launch.
And that imperfect action, it's actually where the fastest learning happens, isn't it? You get real-world feedback immediately.
Instantly. Way faster than trying to theorize everything perfectly in your head. Action creates data. Data informs the next action. That loop builds momentum.
And momentum builds confidence.
Yes. We start believing we can do it, not because we thought about it really hard, but because we see ourselves actually doing it, flaws and all.
Okay, so here's the challenge thing, directly to you listening. Think about that one small thing, the one you've been putting off because it wasn't the right time or you weren't quite ready. Maybe practicing that tricky English sound, doing 5 push-ups, drafting just the title slide for that presentation, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The instruction from our sources is crystal clear. Take one tiny imperfect step today.
Not tomorrow, not next Monday, today.
That first little push is the catalyst. That's what gets the 1% compounding engine started.
It breaks the inertia.
Okay, we've gone deep on the internal stuff, mindset, habits, action, but we don't exist in a bubble, right? Transformation happens within an environment. So what does this mean for our surroundings? How does the external world, the people, the places, the inputs, shape our ability to change?
Oh, hugely. External factors are often the invisible hand guiding our success or failure. We're incredibly sensitive to our context, who you hang out with, what you read or watch, even how your workspace is organized. It all nudges your behavior and beliefs in certain directions, often without you even realizing it.
We've all heard that saying, right? You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Is that just a cliche, or is there real psychology behind it?
There's definitely real psychology. It boils down to normalization.
Normalization.
Yeah. If your main crew, your closest 5, are generally kind of negative, maybe complain a lot, aren't particularly ambitious, their attitudes, their level of effort, their definition of what's normal starts to feel normal to you.
Their ceiling becomes your ceiling.
Unconsciously, yeah. Their lack of growth can become your accepted reality. But flip that.
Okay.
If you surround yourself with people who are positive, driven, constantly learning, aiming high, their standards start to feel normal. Their work ethic seems standard, not heroic.
You absorb it by osmosis.
You really do. Their habits, how they talk about problems, their vocabulary even, it just sort of seeps in. So a huge part of sustainable change is deliberately building an environment that makes the good behaviors easy and the bad ones hard.
Okay, that sounds ideal. But let's be real. What if you're stuck in a situation you can't easily change? A negative workplace, maybe unsupportive family members. You can't just instantly change your 5 people. What do the sources say about managing unavoidable negativity?
That's a super important and common challenge. And you're right, you can't always just walk away. The sources acknowledge this. The strategy here shifts. It's less about physical avoidance, more about mental boundary setting and active filtering.
Okay, how does that work in practice?
Yeah, think of it like 3 layers of defense. First, time blocking. If you have to interact with a really negative influence, be super strict about limiting the time and the context. Keep it brief, keep it focused.
Got it. Minimize exposure duration.
Second, mental filtering. This takes practice. Consciously recognize when someone is dumping negativity or limiting beliefs on you, and make a deliberate choice not to internalize it. See it as their stuff, their perspective, not a universal truth you have to absorb.
Easier said than done, maybe, but crucial.
Very. And third, create a positive sanctuary. Even if your main environment is tough, carve out protected time and space every single day. Maybe it's just 30 minutes in the morning with an inspiring book, or listening to a positive podcast on your commute where you're shielded from negativity. A space to recharge your own growth mindset.
So even if you can't change the external person, you change your internal response and create pockets of positivity. That puts the control back with you.
Exactly. And for the parts of our environment we can shape more easily, the sources give 3 clear, proactive strategies. First, follow inspirational people.
Meaning curate your inputs.
Yes, be intentional about who you listen to, read, watch. Fill your feed, your bookshelf, your podcast queue with people who embody the standards and mindset you aspire to. That constant exposure gradually recalibrates your own baseline.
Okay, makes sense. Strategy 2.
Join learning communities. This tackles accountability and shared momentum.
Find your tribe.
Pretty much. Find a group, could be online, could be local, focused on the skill or area you want to grow in. An English practice group, a coding bootcamp community, a fitness challenge. When you're surrounded by others on the same path, sharing struggles, celebrating small wins, it provides massive motivation and social proof. We heard about a developer who only got consistent with coding after joining an anonymous online group where they just shared their daily progress. Knowing someone else was watching made all the difference.
Like the pressure off failing alone, too. You see everyone else is figuring it out, too.
Exactly. And the third strategy, just as vital, reduce exposure to draining content or people.
The flip side of seeking inspiration.
Right. Be consciously ruthless about limiting time with chronic complainers who don't want solutions. Cut down on the endless stream of outrage news or social media that just saps your mental energy. Protect your focus.
Okay, that leads to a pretty direct question for you listening then.
Yeah.
A moment of reflection. Those 5 people, the main content you consume, are they lifting you up? Or are they subtly holding you back, making stagnation feel normal? It might require some tough choices, some strategic adjustments to your environment to make sure your efforts aren't constantly being undermined.
Yeah, an environment that supports growth makes progress feel almost effortless sometimes. An environment that fights against it turns every single step into a battle. You want to remove that friction.
Okay, that feels like a really comprehensive look at how transformation works, from the inside out and the outside in. We're nearing the end of this deep dive. If you had to boil it all down, synthesize the core message from all these sources, what's the single biggest takeaway?
I think the core message is really one of empowerment. It's that you genuinely have more control over your life's direction than you might think. Transformation isn't about luck or innate talent. It's a predictable outcome. It's the result of systematically combining those small, consistent actions, the 1% rule,
Right.
with the right internal programming, the growth mindset, actively training your RAS, and then intentionally shaping your environment to support, not sabotage, those efforts. It's a formula, really.
And remembering it won't always feel like progress,
Yeah.
right? That 1% is often invisible day to day or even week to week.
Absolutely. You won't feel the change immediately, but the compounding effect is like a law of nature. If you stick with the consistency, the results will show up. That tiny step today really is a huge leap a year down the line.
So trust the process.
Trust the process. And we wanted to leave you with one final thought to chew on. It connects back directly to the RAS and the power of language. The sources mention how learning new words, specifically positive and goal-oriented words, actually helps your RAS do its job better. It gives your brain clearer labels for the success and opportunities it should be looking for.
So the language you use shapes what your brain filters for.
Exactly. So the provocative question for you is this. If you're actively training your RAS to find evidence of your growth, what specific words or phrases about your future successful self are you going to start consciously using today?
What's the identity-affirming language you'll feed your brain?
How will you articulate that future self right now in the present tense to give your RAS clear instructions?
That's a powerful way to apply this. Think about that language. Define it. Use it. Build that first 1% improvement starting right now.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep growing.